Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of We Watch Shudder. It's Double Feature Friday in the middle of Spooktober. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle being extra spooky for Spooktober.
Yeah. So
What's truly
did
scary
you guys,
is how tired I am.
right? Did you guys listen to Dark Glasses first, or are you listening to this one first? It doesn't matter. You're going to get to both of them. That's an order. Private. Why did this become a military thing all of a sudden? I don't know. That's why I don't do improv, you guys, because things go off the rails that quick. What are we talking about in this episode of Double Feature Friday, Michelle?
Apparently the military and improv.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. So we're also talking about another movie. Shudder dropped 2 new releases on us today. One of them was Dario Argento's Dark Glasses. That's not this episode. This one is a movie, interestingly enough, that Dario Argento was the executive producer on, called She Will. There's the thing. Should we just tear right? Do we have it? I've already made a mess of this episode, Michelle. Should we just get right to business?
Let's get right to business.
All right, guys, enough of this hogwash. What we do is we watch Shudder, and I'm also going to now read to you the description of this movie right off the Shudder website. The movie is called She Will, directed by Charlotte, is it Colbert or Colbert? I don't know. She Will. Man, this is really going down as one of our best openings. This is what happens when we try to record. No, we absolutely never restart, Michelle. Never.
Okay.
The world needs to know how terrible this experience is sometimes.
And the best part is we're on not a Zoom call, a Facebook call.
Right.
Ugh, I hate it. We should be on Zoom. That's a higher profile. But so just watching you struggle while I sit here and have nothing to say is really great. I'm just waiting for us to get to the meat of it. But we're 2.5 minutes in and the meat's not coming. Get the server. I ordered my meat.
You ordered your... I don't even want to know about ordering meat. Okay. Guys, we watch movies on Shudder. We're talking about a brand new movie called She Will. Let me read to you the description of the film directly from Shudder's website and or mobile app, wherever you find it. Here we go. An aging film star retreats to the Scottish countryside with her nurse to recover from surgery. While there, mysterious forces of revenge emerge from the land where witches were burned. A Shudder exclusive. Quick and easy. Michelle, why don't you... the description was quick and easy. I don't mean to imply Michelle is quick and easy.
I might
Michelle,
be if I'm in a rush.
would you please... Man, what's going on with this? We must never, ever, ever record 2 episodes directly in a row again, I think. Michelle,
here's the problem. Spooktober. We have been listening to all our really old episodes and being like, look at how well we've matured and how much better we are. And now we're not. We're not.
Right?
Okay.
Hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts, Michelle.
This was meh. 2.25 skulls out of 5.
Get out of town.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I love this movie. 4.5 skulls.
Okay. Well, should we get into the spoiler section? I'm just trying to make up for lost time now.
I know that honestly surprises me. I'm really looking forward to this discussion now. So yeah guys, I gave it 4.5. Michelle gave it 2.5 or 2.25.
2.25.
2.25. Exactly half of my rating. That's wild.
Oh, yeah.
So go see the movie. Hit pause on this podcast. Go watch the movie and come back when you're done. Because we're about to talk about it in all of its spoilery glory. Hit that pause button right now. Michelle.
Yeah.
I am this time for realsies. I'm going to put this microphone down. And I would like you to spend some time telling me why how did this movie... I loved this movie. Why didn't it work for you?
Well, the main villain is a puddle of mud. So that's, first off, a problem for me. And that is a joke. I don't mind mud being an evil villain. Mud has been in the background for way too long. So It's just very slow for a long time, and that's not the type of movie that I enjoy. I really, really love the ending of it. I love the big moments of it. It's just not my cup of tea. Apparently today during double feature day, we're just watching movies that are good, but that I don't like them. And so that is today's theme, where I'm not going to say it's a bad movie. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I think it's a fairly good movie full of actors that I really enjoy and really cool cinematic moments and like a solid story. I just don't like it.
Okay, and so also it dawns on me that we didn't really have to do this with the Dark Glasses episode, because the description of that movie from the Shudder website breaks down the plot in somewhat extensive detail. Fill everybody in on like just kind of the overall, if for our friends who just listen to it to hear us bicker back and forth, get them up to speed on what goes on in this movie.
My brain just immediately panicked because it was like, oh God, you're too tired for this. But basically, a woman who is recovering from her mastectomy goes with her nurse to a retreat, and she thinks she's going to be alone, but then there are many people there, and that's a nightmare, and I get that. And then they find out that the land is where witches were burned, as the description says, and I believe she kind of becomes possessed or channels those former witches to get revenge on Malcolm McDowell, who did some bad shit.
Yeah. So here's my biggest question based on your initial thoughts about why this movie didn't work for you. You refer to the sludge, the mud, the sort of peat mud there in this retreat in this land. You referred to it as the villain of the movie.
I would like to correct that because for a while you don't know that this is actually, the force that's kind of helping. It's just kind of there, and she's channeling it and then starting to do the art, and it does attack that one guy. So it's like, is this a malevolent entity or is this good? So yeah, I will correct that. It is not the villain. The mud is good. The mud is the hero of the movie.
Yeah. I guess the more I think about it, because this movie gives me definite vibes, not so much in the plot or narrative, but in the tone and the atmosphere of it. It reminds me a decent amount of a movie called Saint Maud that you may have heard me mention once or twice.
We have talked about Saint Maud, which I did not like. And you
even a movie like The Feast. I don't know if you've seen that one, but
I don't recall.
Or even like a Dark Song. This is very much,
which I also didn't like.
Yeah, it's very much a slow burn film. But first of all, I love the story here. I love that they do start presenting it as if the spirits of these witches that inhabit the ground are perhaps trying to possess someone to enact their own revenge on the people who, like maybe the descendants of the people who burned them here, or that kind of vibe, that you've seen in similar movies before. And then it just very deftly, I think, turns that on its head and makes this a movie about... I don't like they talk about it in the description there. They call this a revenge plot, like forces of revenge, and ultimately I think you do have to qualify it that way. But throughout the whole thing, I was just thinking people are gonna call this a revenge movie, and this is a fucking justice movie. Like this is
that I would absolutely agree with, and that this is one where I'm listening to you explain it, and I'm like, yeah, no, that is pretty cool.
Sure.
It's not for me.
Oh no, and we've had those before on my side as well, where I don't have anything particularly against it. It's just not my flavor. This one. Go ahead.
Oh, this is one where sometimes I give a bad review and I'm like, God, I hope they never hear that because I really didn't like this movie. If anybody involved in this movie listens and they hear my score and they think, oh, wow, she didn't like it, trust me, that's not a reflection on your movie. My rating is just
Right.
my subjective opinion. If I had to go, what is the technical quality of this movie? How was the acting? How was the cinematography? How was the soundtrack? All of those details, I would give it high score.
Right.
It's just my own experience. It's not my thing
right.
at all.
It's like you could have the best chocolate ice cream in the world, but if you don't like chocolate, it doesn't matter, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I also really don't like dramas. So I think when drama and horror overlap, it has to be a very specific thing for me. I don't really like watching dramatic movies, and this kind of falls into the drama horror realm.
Oh, for sure.
And
for sure.
like the slower ones generally do, but I need more going on in my movie, and that's why the ending of this I really, really liked, but it's just there weren't a lot of those moments throughout. There were some, but just the contemplative, slow building up to something is not the type of thing that I want to watch.
Sure. No, I can understand that definitely, and but for me, as somebody who does really get into that. And what's crucial to me, I definitely agree with you that what makes the slow burn of this movie work for me is the ultimate payoff, right? Mm-hmm. I've seen a lot of movies. One of them that I actually mentioned earlier, A Dark Song, is a movie that I feel is similar to this one in that kind of tone and the way it plays out, but it is one that for me where the ultimate ending did break the movie for me, right? It was one where the ending didn't work. But this is one where I was definitely invested in seeing where this was going. I was caught up in the characters and the atmosphere and the creepy eeriness of it. And then what it ultimately leads to, I thought was just super amazing. I thought Alice Krieg did a amazing job in this film.
Agreed.
I thought it ultimately becomes a very sort of empowering story. Very interesting how I like that they start with a woman who was an actress, and she was a famous star for her entire life, and they very subtly give you the impression that the movie opens with that scene of her putting her makeup on and going through the process of getting ready, and she talks about putting on masks, and it's this idea of she's been caught under this trauma and sort of just trapped in this identity that was rooted in that trauma that has taught her that the mastectomy is so essential to that idea of your power is your physical femininity, because of eventually they never give us any specific details about what happened, but very clearly there was some sort of sexual misconduct on the part of Malcolm McDowell's character against this actress Veronica when she was a teenager, right? And just that idea of I liked that story, and frankly, this might also be tied into the fact that, as you know, and I don't mind mentioning somewhat vaguely, I'm currently in my personal life dealing with someone very close to me dealing with a cancer diagnosis. It's not a breast cancer situation, but I think just those themes of she feels like she's lost a lot of her power and what makes her her and what gives her identity, and just that she comes to this place and what we feel is going to be this evil force is this awakening power that just like that sequence towards the end where she's just standing there nude with her mastectomy scars exposed to the world. That's such a turnaround from the earlier movie where she just refuses to be seen that way, right? It's such a story about taking back what your real power is, and exerting that finally, and the land heals her, and like they're leaving and she knows what she did, and her caretaker, who by the way we haven't even mentioned here but I thought was fantastic, played by Coda Eberhard. I can't remember the character's name. Desi, it just popped into my head. I thought she did a fantastic job, but Desi's been watching, right? She's not dumb. And then she sees the thing on her phone about how this guy supposedly killed himself, and she kind of gives her that look, and they both know, and she doesn't give a shit at all because she knows what happened to her too, and she knows that shit was protecting them, and it's just I don't know. I liked the story here. I liked the execution of it. Again, I totally understand the idea of flavors, so I get why this wouldn't necessarily be one that did work for you. But if you are a person who can deal with a good slow burn and tension ratcheting, man, this movie is fantastic.
I actually agree with all that. Yeah, you didn't say anything that I disagree with. It's just overall, it's not my thing.
Well,
but,
and I know
everything you said, like I completely agree. Like the idea of kind of rebirth through this situation is really neat.
I kind of know that when I have a movie where I don't have anything against it, it's just not necessarily my thing. I also sometimes find it difficult to even have anything to say, so I kind of wanted to just go off on a tear and at least have some content for us. In this film. Also, I know you're running on two. Guys, we mentioned it in the other episode. Michelle got up at 3 o'clock in the morning this morning to start working on watching the two movies we had to watch today. Has to work all day. Then also had to find time to record these episodes. And we're still going out tonight to Sanctuary in Fargo for Time Bomb Pro Wrestling. This lady is crazy busy, and she's running on 2 hours of sleep.
I wrote no notes for this movie,
by the
way.
Michelle, I'm talking.
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to put you over and compliment you.
I knew you were going to compliment me, and I was like, oh, God, divert. Who wants to talk about dogs?
Okay, fair enough. Fine. I won't compliment you in front of all of these people. I will wait and put it on Twitter.
Oh, God damn it.
But
Twitter, where it lives forever.
Here's one that I want to ask you, though, because we've often talked about how sometimes whoever puts together the promotional images for these movies that go up on the website.
Beautiful.
I love this.
Every time you say slow burn, I look at the poster because I have both up on my screen right now. The poster's on the left, your face is on the right.
Yeah.
And every time you say slow burn, I'm like, man, that's in her head, though.
That poster is here's what I love about it. It gives you nothing, right?
Yep.
But at the same time, it creates such an impression of imagery, like just that whole effect of like half a head and then the other half of the head is just on fire.
And you're content with it. You're okay with what's happening.
Yeah,
it's not
like
a
she's not
horrific
screaming.
thing.
She's
It's a powerful
at
thing.
Peace.
Yeah.
This,
I love it.
So yeah, if you're into this sort of more kind of modern, and Michelle is right, it's very much a dramatic horror film. It's something that I think doesn't get brought up a lot of the time. There is very much, people talk about horror comedies, but I think a lot of these movies that lately have been people have been kicking around this term elevated horror, which I hate because
I haven't heard that
really?
At all.
Yeah. They kind of like a new alternative euphemism for what they, I guess, probably used to call like art house horror and that sort of stuff. But I don't like it because, first of all, it implies that other horror movies are doing something lesser, and I don't like that arrogance. But they ultimately, I think what it comes down to is, I think, horror drama as a specific indicator is what those people are trying to say. These are definitely movies that, while they have horrific elements, they are very much rooted in the plot and story arc for these characters and rooted in very real human things. There is very much a push towards more serious drama in the horror sphere lately, and when it works, man, it's one of my favorite things.
I'm going to be Googling elevated horror and see what's on that list that I do like versus what I don't, because trying to figure out horror drama is difficult because people don't really
They don't use the term.
That, even though they should, because movies like this are a perfect example of it. It's definitely a drama, and then there's just supernatural elements. If those weren't in there and it was her like murdering the guy and that was how she got her revenge, it would be pretty much the same movie, but then people would call it a drama, you know.
So you mentioned that, and I was just like, well, I'm sitting right here in front of my computer, so I did a quick Google search for elevated horror movies. Here's the first row of titles that comes up here. Hereditary, Midsommar,
which I thought of,
Mother, The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Babadook, Goodnight Mommy, The House That Jack Built, Relic, Saint Maud, Raw. Basically, I figure, a lot of these more serious, dramatic, or like ultimately the kind of horror movies that snobby film critics are willing to say they enjoyed.
Yeah. No, as you were reading that, it clicked, and I think all of those would mostly fall under horror drama.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're very much rooted in character stories, and I think if they just called them horror dramas, but there's again that term elevated horror, it just feels like it was made by the same person who said art horror, because what they're secretly trying to say is, well, yeah, it's a horror movie, but it's not just that. Like there's something deeper going on here, and my problem with that is there's something deeper going on in way more horror movies than those people are willing to acknowledge. But anyway, that's a whole different discussion.
I have a really good term for it, though. I figured it out. Okay, how Marvel movies are called Marvel movies instead of action movies. They are their own subgenre. Horror drama movies we can just call A24. For the A24 universe.
You're not wrong. You're very much not wrong. There are a couple exceptions to that rule, but yes, the A24 horror movies are all definitely in that category.
Yep.
And I think
so we'll just call it that.
Yeah, and I think She Will is a movie that would definitely fall into that category as well. I think it's a great example of that type of. I like horror drama. We're establishing that terminology, at least for us here today, Michelle. We're calling them horror dramas. It seems so obvious. I don't know why nobody's just started saying it before. Probably because they want to be snobby and use that word elevated.
Yeah, which is weird because even on IMDb it does classify as drama and horror, but nobody ever says like, oh, I want to go watch a horror drama, drama horror.
How last week I was confused for a minute because they told me that that Deadstream was a horror drama. I'm going to hop on Google right now, and I'm going to Google She Will, because I did this because I was looking for a cast list, and that's how I do it. And it says psychological horror / comedy drama. Who the fuck at Google is responsible for this shit?
It's probably the person who also writes these Shudder descriptions occasionally where we're like, what is going on?
Comedy drama? Give me a break, Google.
Oh my God.
Get your shit
together. Can you please screenshot that and send it to me so I can just put it in a folder and just keep it for the bad days? So I
sure can. I sure can.
Oh, man. There were so many parts of this movie where I was just laughing my ass off. Real slapstick, the way that she's getting revenge for sexual misconduct.
Oh, God.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
Yeah. So to summarize, if slow burn dramatic horror is your vibe, this is definitely one worth seeing. So I did want to mention, I gave it 4.5 skulls. And not the full 5 skulls, and I'm sure people are wondering why, because I've been so heavily praising of the movie. And once again, it's that simple matter of a taste thing. Interestingly enough, we've talked before about how I'm a guy who, like, I don't mind some mystery in my movies, but I do like, if you go a certain distance into the mystery, I do expect a little. I would have liked to know a little bit more about specifically the 2 witch ladies in the flashbacks that they keep happening. There's specifically 2 of them, and I feel like there might be something more to this story that ended up getting cut out that drew parallels between the fact that there are 2 in that flashback and we have Desi and Veronica here. So there's a part of me that was just like, I really want more backstory, but if not, I mean, ultimately I at least got enough from it to understand the overall thrust of what the movie was doing, so it didn't ruin my experience of it in any way. This is just yet another one where I would have liked a little bit more on that end. But
so if during the flashbacks they had 3 witches instead of 2, so you didn't think that there was an additional meaning, it would have been a 5-skull movie.
Look, Michelle, we've talked about how absurd these skull ratings are to begin with. And how, if you ask me tomorrow, I might give you a 5-skull rating on this movie.
Add or subtract 1 witch in your flashback, and it will make a huge difference in your rating score.
It wasn't specifically... I just felt like there was maybe more story there.
I want you to write a review on the Shudder website for this movie that goes almost perfect. Need 1 or more, or 1 more, or 1 less witch.
I'm going to do that right now.
Good.
Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.